What's it like to be a highly compensated technology executive to then lose their job and then have to bounce back again? Well, today we're going to talk about that on the Finance Rebel Show. Today we got a great show for you. Jay Stevens is going to spend a little bit of time with us. She's had a career with the government, Big Four accounting, and her own business. So today we're going to explore that whole series, that whole, I don't want to call it drama, but journey for how she was able to stay on top and do some things. And I believe that anybody who is looking to use technology to improve their finances, this show will be for you because Jay does that also. So, Jay, how are you?
Hey, Kamari.
How you
Hey,
doing?
Finance Rebels.
Well, this has been a long time coming. I've been trying to get you on for a
Yeah,
while, and it didn't line up, and now it's lining up. The stars have lined up. So,
yes. We
thank
had
you,
to take
thank you,
a
thank you so much.
wintry day in the middle of a snowstorm to
Well,
get
oh,
it
so
right.
it's snowing where you're at.
Oh, yeah. That's why y'all are getting this view. Yeah, sometimes I put a virtual background up, but y'all
Mm.
can see the snow kind of maybe. I don't know if somebody has an HD camera, they can zoom in
I mean,
and
I'm a
see.
Philly guy, so I'm thinking about Boys the Men. I
Just
can't sing.
let us know.
I can't sing, so I won't do it to y'all.
We're gonna get to that point. At some point, we'll sing. I will sing, and you can. And it's okay. And I'm not claiming to be a singer.
I'll just talk. I'll be like Mike from Boys the Men. I'll just talk.
Yeah, yes. Baby, I'm down on one baby.
Exactly.
Yes, yes.
So, but again, thank you for joining us today. But Jay, you have quite the career, and you're pretty young
Thank
to
you.
have done so much.
Thanks. I try. I use good products on my face.
Good. And I'm sure you get plenty of rest, lots of sun and
I
lots of
do. I was
water.
taking a nap right before this.
Okay. I know you're serious about your naps,
I am. I really am.
but I know you work for the government,
Yeah.
Big Four accounting,
Yeah.
a major tech giant,
Yeah.
started your own business,
Yeah.
and now working for another tech consultant as well.
Yeah. All of that. All of that.
Okay.
And a few degrees in there too.
A few degrees. So I didn't know you were an accountant or are an accountant.
Yeah. I don't I always like finance more than accounting. And if
Well,
you're
let
not
me
in
tell you,
finance,
I'm a finance guy. My degree's in finance, so I get it.
yeah,
I get it.
I like finance more, but accounting and audit, it's job stability. So that's where I first started out. Because I graduated college during the 2008, 2009 recession.
Mm,
So I was
that
like,
was a
I'm going
crazy
with
time.
this. Yeah, I went to where I could get a job. So that's how I got into auditing for the U.S. Navy. And but I always wanted to do finance. Well, I shouldn't say always. When I was in college, I learned about finance. Because I was just a general business major at the time, and then I said, "Oh yeah, I want to do this," but I'm not staying in school another year for it because that's just too much money. So then I waited to go back and get my MBA from Howard, and then I got my MBA in finance.
All right,
And
beat you.
you know,
All right.
and in the background,
So
I
you
did
went to
that.
HU for grad school. Where'd you go for undergrad?
Furman University is in Greenville, South Carolina.
Did you say Grambling?
Furman,
Oh, Furman. Okay.
Furman.
I was
The
about to say
private liberal
Grambling in
arts
South Carolina.
institute.
Okay. Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay. All right. So when you were working for the Navy, were you enlisted in the Navy or or you a civilian working for the Navy?
Yeah, I was a civil servant. I was
Okay.
I was sitting in the office, the Washington Navy Yard, and doing performance audits, like so not financial statement audits because
Mhm.
it's the federal government. What are you going to tell them about spending their money? But as
A
far as
lot.
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be the deliverer of any news on, on that. But there's so for mine, I was doing internal control testing. So there's certain funds and allotments that service members can receive depending on what station they're at and where they're stationed and what their assignment is. And there are ways to get more money, and some people pursue different ways to get more money. So my job was to research
Okay.
the
Okay.
validity of the different claims they made for money. I equate it to it's tax season. It's the beginning of tax season. Well, tax season is year round, but it's kind of like if you
Don't
were
mention
to
that.
claim someone's kids on your taxes.
Hmm.
like claiming, other people to get more benefits.
Well, when you're married in service and when you have children in service, you get a bigger paycheck.
Right. That is
Yeah,
exactly the
I
type
got it.
of audit I did.
So my dad was in the Navy for 20 years. So,
Well, thank you for your service.
yes, thank you for his service. But I get it. I get it. It's very interesting.
Yeah. And no one really wants to be the person to say, you're defending and protecting our freedom overseas and you got an extra $200 a month. And I don't think that's right. Like, really? But yeah, that's what I did before grad school.
Got you. Got you. Then what made you go to grad school?
I wanted to study finance. And unlike being a lawyer or a doctor, where you go straight from undergrad into your grad programs, your advanced degree programs, you have to have some work experience before you can get your MBA. So, like I said, it was the 2009. It was 2009 when I graduated. I needed to get a job. I got a job, and plus I wanted to live in DC. I was so excited to live in DC. And then when I had enough work experience, I applied to grad school.
Okay. Okay. So then you went to the Navy and then you left the Navy and went to.
Howard, and then when I left Howard, I went to KPMG for like
Oh,
12
you.
years.
Oh, you worked at Howard too.
Oh, well, I mean, technically it was work study, but no, I
Okay.
just like quit working altogether and went to school full time.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that was like the beginning of me also traveling a lot. I was raised overseas, but then I began to travel overseas when I was at Howard. I loved it, and I still do it. And then when I graduated, I went to KPMG, which is one of the big four consulting. I was there for like exactly a year and a month. It was a lot going on. I said, fresh start somewhere else. So I went to Deloitte, and I stayed at Deloitte for 6 years. And I did all kinds of cool projects there in the federal space. Everything
Give us
from
an idea of some of the projects you worked on.
yeah. So there's an obscure federal agency that no one ever pays attention to until they need them. It's called the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, and
I
they
know
have.
about them.
Oh, cool. Okay, okay. I think we talked about this before. But most people, I mean, I didn't even really know they existed until they became my client. But it's the equivalent of the FDIC for your pension if you have a pension plan, which is rare nowadays. So if your pension holding company, they were to go under the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, will make sure that you still get your benefits through your pension plan.
But won't they reduce it though?
It depends. So I worked on one of the largest
Pension.
pension valuations at I call it PBGC. That's their acronym. And that one, we did not reduce it, but it just depends on how much your employer has like paid into. Well, actually, it's not just one thing; it's a number of factors.
Right.
Like the valuation for a pension plan is a lot. So ideally, they don't want to give people less. You already worked all these years, and you think you have your retirement benefit. Why would you take that away from someone? But if the pool of money isn't large enough, and or if the people who are running your pension, they were committing fraud or something and stole the money out, like it's just not there, so you can't squeeze from a dry turnip.
Yeah, it happens. It happens actually a lot. I want to say in the 80s,
Yeah,
many of the airlines, some of the pilots,
yeah,
something happened with their
yeah,
pension and they lost money, if I remember correctly.
yes, yeah.
And
Scammers will
so,
scam.
I mean, but that's a good thing to know because I know a lot of people don't think about it, right? Your pension, like you said, a lot of them don't exist anymore. But there is an insurance program, wink, wink, air quotes
Right,
for those listening to the audio.
when you need it.
There's something there, but it's not always 100%.
Yeah, can I I'm going to step aside.
Okay.
Give my little finance advice cap.
Yep.
Real quick advice for people, not just pension plans, but also social security benefit that's presumed to be fading away in the 2030s. I mean, every year they push that date back. So, but in general, I advise people that you should not expect to get
Your
funds,
social.
yeah, from federal agencies as you get older. And there's a number of factors like the population change, people are living longer, and just in general, when there is a federal funded program, it is at the whim of the federal government or state funded government, whatever, or locally funded, whatever level of agency or government funds it. And that is really however your elected officials decide to act. So to the extent that you can have your money set aside somewhere so you're not dependent on Social Security. And I mean, that's for all kinds of government funding.
Like, but this is another reason why people should pay attention to politics.
Okay. And I get it. Like, it is, I get it. I live in DC. It is not, it's not, you just kind of lose hope sometimes. They're just like, oh, this is my options. These are who I got to vote for. But it's better to do your research and vote for somebody than just hope that something is going to work. And still, at the same time, have your own little nest egg set aside somewhere.
I agree. Yeah.
And it is an election year. I mean, it's always an election year. But it's
the big election, the election that everybody pays to. But there's an election every 6 months.
Yeah.
All right. So you worked at KPMG and then the other one, the other big one.
Deloitte. Yeah, I loved it. It was a lot, but I loved it. Deloitte is a great place to learn how to be a leader. They pour so much into training their employees and teaching them how to operate and function as a leader and how to make decisions in all kinds of environments. And I think that there's a lot you can learn in textbooks, but that real world experience is chef's kiss. Next level. Gotcha. It was stressful, but it was excellent leadership development.
So what made you leave Deloitte and then go to, I don't know if you say them?
I can say Meta in this context.
Okay.
Later in the conversation, I will not.
Okay.
I know the irony that somebody could just press fast forward and connect the dots. So, I mean, because it's on my LinkedIn. It's not like, ooh.
Right. It's not top secret.
Right.
Some of that stuff, your government stuff probably is more sensitive than Meta.
It absolutely is. And it never happens. So I was at Deloitte, and when you get to a certain part, a certain place in your performance, in your career development, you started to have the questions of like, are you going to go all the way to partner / principal managing director? And I was at manager. So it was manager, then senior manager, and then it would be partner. And I mean, this is not something that happens overnight. This is like 10, 15 years, but you start thinking of it early enough in advance because there's a lot of things you have to put in place to make it happen. And I didn't see that for me. I always thought I was going to make it to partner, like so many people that poured into me to get to that level, to where I was. And I just didn't want it anymore. And I wanted something that would give me more work-life balance. I know that people have their opinions of like whether that's a real thing. So it's
not real, but it's the goal.
Right. It's like what works for you? What is your work-life balance? Right. So yeah, I wanted to change. And at the time it was 2020 when all the tech, so we were all stuck in home from the pandemics, the panorama. So all the tech companies, they just had money to blow. They were hiring like crazy because they needed to scale rapidly. When you think of like Amazon, it went from I can get my groceries anywhere to like Amazon Fresh. And when you think of I'm stuck at home all day, so like Zoom they were nothing. They were truly a startup. And then it became this just overnight success. Although now, they're kind of like panning back down to what they would have been pre-pandemic, as are most tech companies. We'll get to that later. But I wanted to try something new. I had been in government and I had been in consulting. I wanted to actually like be in private industry for a while. So I made the jump and more than doubled my salary because tech companies pay good. They pay well. They pay. It was a lavish lifestyle. And then, but without burning bridges, I didn't like walk out in flames and glory when I left Deloitte. As a matter of fact, a lot of those people are still my friends, and I send them Christmas cards, and we meet up for dinners and stuff.
Nice.
So it just
Deloitte pays a pretty penny too.
It is.
Mm-hmm. I had an opportunity to work for one of the big four last summer as a contractor.
Yeah, how was that?
It was interesting. Let
me interview you. Tell me more. Tell me more.
What I'll say is, I've been working in accounting and finance all my life, over 30 years, right? So
Thank you, brilliant.
I was expecting it to be like this heaven utopian type moment, and it wasn't. But I,
Yeah.
I what I gleaned from it is that they do have a process for everything, which I think is really good, which are some of the things I'm working on putting in my business. However, they weren't as organized as I thought they would be. But hey,
May
I
I
did it.
opine on that?
Of
May I-
course.
So, um, I should have been prepared for my opine. So you got to think these organizations. When I left Deloitte, they had just celebrated 175 years of existence.
Mhm.
And in general, with any organization, the more time you have, just the stronger your brand, the more you're able to grow and understand and be and plan out predictability. And or if you can't, change predictability, if you can't fix it, you just kind of make it work.
Right.
But no matter what, you're also always bringing in new people because you can only have so many people that make it to the top. And so you've got to train those people. And then there's just societal and cultural pressures that will also like cannot be completely predicted, planned for. So, for example, going back to 2020, George Floyd and
Nobody can
Breonna
plan for
Taylor,
that. Right.
companies all of a sudden they cared. They just, Black Lives Matter.
Oh, wait, I was going to ask you that.
But
I was going to ask you that.
how did I feel about it?
No, I was going to ask you one, were you a DEI hire for Meta? And then I
Ooh.
was going to ask you, how do you feel about this new anti DEI stance that a lot of tech companies are taking?
That Elon's on? Okay.
Elon and a lot of other tech.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so yes, you're right. Elon is the face of it because Elon's gonna be the face of anything he's near.
Mhm.
But there are other people that support it.
But shout out to Mark
The
Cuban.
anti-DEI.
But shout out to Mark Cuban. He's been pushing back.
Oh, he is about that life. So I saw
Yeah.
Mark Cuban. I mean, I didn't see him personally. Like I heard about kind of adjacent to his presentation for at Afrotech in summer
Mm.
23. And I guess it's more like fall 23. And he's one of those allies that's about that life. And fully
He about
believes.
his paper too. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's been
Yeah.
proven that diversity generates more profit.
Absolutely. That's
So
not even a new phenomenon. Phenom.
no, it's not. But it's like, but we're getting all this pushback against DEI. We're seeing what's going on with Harvard and
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Gay.
Claudia Gay, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
with her I want to say layoff. It wasn't a layoff. It was, her resignation, where, we had this major onslaught of DEI. But like you said, this isn't new. Like, profits really do come from diversity, not
Yeah.
just diversity of race, but also diversity of thought. And
Yeah.
so
Oof.
it's,
Let's get into that
really,
one too.
it's really interesting. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said I want to get into that too.
Okay.
Okay, so was I a diversity hire? I don't think so, but they also, in general, actually, I don't know. Because I wasn't at the table to know what was part of what was made for the decision, like I was a fit for the role, no matter what. I had the
Gotcha.
skills for the role. So in that regards, it wasn't like, oh, we just need to get somebody in here to do something. And I don't think it was a diversity hire. But they did have a goal at the time that by like sometime, I think it was like 2030 or something like that, at least 50% of their senior leaders would be people of color. And when they said people of color, they were referring to Black and Latina. And the goal was they also had goals for the LGBT community and for the for women or women identifying people. So it was a number of goals. And I mean, let's be honest, I check at least two. Well, I check two. I'm Black and I'm a woman. So in that regards, anyone that hires me, I guess they could say I was a diversity hire, but I also was a fit for the role. And it didn't feel like I was a diversity hire when I was laid off.
Okay.
It didn't feel like that was the role, although I did pay attention, and I'm going to withhold my comment right now because I feel like there will be a time and a place when all of this will come clear that it was. I think it's interesting to see who was impacted by the layoffs, and there
All the
is
Black people.
It was Black people, it was Latina people, because and this isn't just a meta thing. This isn't, I can't, and let me be clear. So now I need to stop saying certain things. There are, I think,
I mean,
just
all
certain
big tech.
roles, huh?
Oh, I
And
was
not
gonna
even
say,
just big tech. There are certain roles where people of color are going to be placed, unfortunately. And it's
mhm.
not like they can't thrive in any other role or any other area of the company. Um, if there's not diversity in that area to start with, and it's the whole like survival mentality of you network and work with people that look like you, it's they're not going to be brought into the pipeline. And then if they are brought in, they're not given a chance to supply to thrive. Um, so it just kind of breeds this like, okay, you finally broke the glass ceiling, or you finally were the first in your area, but then you have to work with so many microaggressions every day. And this was not my experience. I did not have issues with race or anything when I was there. You have to work with so many microaggressions that are you really in a position to survive? So like that's what's going on right now at Lincoln University. The Black woman who's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sororities Incorporated, and it is our Founders Day today.
Happy Founders Day.
Um, um,
I didn't know you were part of the Pink and Green.
yes, yes, there are all kinds of pink and green. I'm looking out this window, like all kinds of pink and green celebrations going on today. And MLK, it's a super day, super Black day.
By the way,
Um,
you know what? I would be remiss if I didn't say happy holiday, happy
yeah,
MLK Day. I didn't say that at all.
happy MLK Day to you too. Come on.
Yes. Now, let me ask you a quick question. What
Yeah.
did you do at that major tech company that won't be named anymore?
Thank you for phrasing it like that. So what did I do? I was in charge of portfolio management. So that is where you take all of the really big, strategic, complex, cross-functional projects, programs, initiatives across an entire organization, or as big as the unnamed company was. I was doing it just for finance. And you find a way to kind of organize them and benchmark them for executive reporting and analysis. So you say we've got, 300 projects going on. One is to do payroll taxes. One is to automate unemployment insurance. One is for, I'm trying to think of all the different things, for treasury, like we're setting up a new bank that we're working with. We have suppliers, so we're trying to have a more diverse supplier. So how are we? So like all these projects, they require resources, and when I say resources, I mean manpower, time, and dollars, obviously, to get them to fruition. And when you have a really big company, or when you have a company that it's in its growth stages, you can have the same people doing the same projects in different parts of the world or in different parts of the organization, and they just don't know it. So portfolio management helps you to see all of these
Overlap.
projects together,
Right.
and then say like, okay, these two projects need to go together. Or there's been some new tax laws that came out. And so we really have to prioritize addressing these tax laws. That means the tax team can no longer work on this. So are we going to hire more people to split the work? Are we going to deprioritize this project? How are we going to are we going to bring in contractors? Like how you said you worked for a big four company as a contractor over the summer. Are we bringing in contractors? So it's like making the jigsaw puzzle work of the resources you have for all your really big projects. And then ideally, if you get really good at it, you have a process where people do intake, like where they request to have a project. And then you have a process of like quarterly where you review the projects. And then you also have time where you kind of do a lessons learned, a retrospective. Then you get into all the kind of fun stuff with like agile and software delivery. And
I was going to say you're really more of like a project manager, it seems like.
oh yeah, but it's
Okay.
project manager of projects. So they call it portfolio management.
Right. Project manager projects that are all under the financial scope.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, how long were you there?
Exactly 2 years.
Okay. And then you got laid off, right?
Yes.
How did that
Yes.
feel?
Oh, there was a lot of feelings. I don't think just one feeling sums it up. Now I feel like I'm on an after school special where where you have like the feelings table or something. You're like, I felt sad. And then on the picture we had back in the day of like the black and white and the guy with the different faces. Are you angry today? Are you happy? It was a lot. I think the first 72 hours was shock and confusion. I couldn't make sense of it. I kept thinking of the line from Julius Caesar right before he passes, or I mean, he was murdered, and he said, "Et tu, Brutus?" The die Caesar. I was like, "Et tu?" Company unnamed. And it was so dramatic, but I just couldn't fathom it. I didn't see it coming, and there were chances for me to get myself in a situation where I would not have been impacted. And I kept not taking those chances for the good of the team. Like I was given opportunities to go to another project where I would not have been cut. But the project team I was on said, "Oh, we need you so bad, and you can move to another project team after we get through this." And then in the meantime, I was being set up. And
Well, you knew these cuts were coming already.
I mean, I was in portfolio management.
So you already could see the writing on the wall.
I didn't know I was being cut. And I didn't know for sure when the cuts would happen. Although as we got closer to the time frame, there's certain indicators, and I'll share a few of those. I share them in my book. We'll get to it later. There are certain indicators that something's got to give, something's got to shift. And I could have tried to make some moves before then, and that would have possibly changed the course of action. Those indicators, when you look at, and this isn't just for tech, this is in general, when you look at, if you're working at a school, if you're working at a hospital, any of that, when they cut back any of the, what they'll consider fluff,
Ancillary.
yes, ancillary, auxiliary, tertiary, all the different words, SAT words they'll use to say this is not the core business. So when I say core business, what makes money and what is legally required to do. Like you are legally required to pay people if you hire them. And whatever you are doing to make money, even if it's a nonprofit organization, like it's not nonprofit, it is not for profit, but they still got to get some money to be able to serve the community.
That's right.
So whenever those other things are scaled back, and for us and for a lot of companies in the tech industry, it was DE&I and it's HR, because why are you hiring more people if you can't, if you struggle with the people you got? So you're going to see layoffs and hiring freezes, less training, because training is like, look, it's a benefit if we have time to train you, but if not, just keep figuring out how to do what you're doing, and like take one, watch a YouTube video, take a Udemy course, figure out how to keep it moving. I think it was very telling when engineers, there was the engineers are always in demand nowadays, and engineers were being put on a hiring freeze in different companies. So it meant they couldn't come in and do the work that they needed to do. And if you're a tech company not hiring engineers, and I'm not saying this was my company, I'm just saying in general, that's kind of the tell. I feel like that's the equivalent of like a gasoline store saying like, "Oh, we're not getting more gasoline." Like, isn't that kind of how this operates? Like, that's one of the key ingredients here.
It's funny, right? Before, at one point, I was in tech. I was a Microsoft certified engineer. I did a lot of network engineering, I did a lot of work on Cisco routers and switches. And the one thing I always felt like tech was always viewed as an expense to the big companies and their priorities, but never really seen as an investment. And so it goes to your point about like, well, these things are necessary to run your business, but you want to skimp on them. So I totally get it.
Yeah. Also, stock performance. If your employer is publicly traded, you can have one quarter where, okay, we didn't quite meet our sales goals and expectations. But in the second one, they'll start saying like, "Oh, we need to, tighten the straps and go." By that third quarter of, and I don't say poor performance, but underwhelming or did not meet expectations performance.
Lackluster.
Yeah, lackluster. All these SAT words they'll use. Shifting priorities. That's another one they'll say. Realignments, re-strategize. All code words for, okay, so we just got real. And the shareholders are not happy because they don't have shares to hold, and the shares they hold are not as valuable as they should be. So that is when, again, they'll start making changes and switches in the role. And some of those changes can just be we're reorganizing. When they say restructuring, again, that's not always a bad thing, but it is a sign that we have to take some of the things we prioritize and figure out how to move them back around. If you see that you're being asked to do multiple jobs, certain benefits are being cut. So again, we talked about training, but like maybe you have free gym membership, or dry cleaning, or
Free
donut
coffee.
Fridays. All those things start scaling back.
Yep.
Read the tea leaves, read the writing on the wall, whatever you want to say, and just, blow the dust off your resume and start circulating it. It's not that you want to leave your company, but it's that you should be aware of, at the end of the day, they are a business and you are a business too. As an employee, like, you are the business of you. And as the kids say nowadays, stand on business. Like,
Staying
figure
on
out
business.
what you got to do.
Okay. But let me ask you a question, right? So you were seeing some of the reductions that were taking place, and you kind of had a sense of it. What were you doing personally to prepare? Let me ask, were you doing anything personally to prepare?
Yeah. So in addition to what was going on, I was in a stressful role. It wasn't always stressful. It actually was quite enjoyable. I like portfolio management. But my supervisor came from a different company beforehand. And that supervisor's leadership skills did not blend with our company necessarily. And that transition period for her, or him, gender not specific, caused that supervisor to rub a lot of people the wrong way. And by rub the wrong way, I mean create unnecessarily intense, crazy, disorganized, hectic environments. So we were already experiencing burnout amongst team members. And for me, it showed up in the form of, I was having chest pain. So I remember one morning I was just like, when you have chest, I'm on my left side right here, like where your heart is. And when you have those kind of chest pains and you go into the doctor and they're like, oh, we need to run all the tests to make sure things are okay. And I couldn't breathe. Like, that's how bad it was getting. I guess it was something with circulation. So just the thought of having to be in a meeting with this person was stressing me out that much. And for context, I have worked in audit and accounting in busy seasons. I have had to do some really intense and thorough financial evaluations. I've had to do inventory testing in middle of nowhere parts of the world where you don't have cell phone service and you're just wearing like these big rubber boots and digging in boxes for random little pieces of data. And none of that was nearly as stressful or intense as having someone just belittle me and create chaos. And I was asked to stick around to try to make these things better. And it wasn't just me that was experiencing this. So I said it wasn't a race thing. It wasn't a gender thing. This person's leadership skills just needed time to grow and develop. That is a nice way of putting it.
That is so kind. I mean, you are showing an incredible level of grace right now. You don't want to say, hey, my boss was an asshole, but you're like, no, don't do that.
I'm trying to say it nicely.
It's okay.
She or he needed time to develop their leadership skills and understand our corporate culture.
And for the record, I've admitted this to my friends in the LGBTQI space. I'm having a hard time with pronouns. Not that I believe in not calling people what they want to be called. I've just been socialized a certain way. So my brain doesn't necessarily kick into it the same way that some of the younger people do. And I'm not doing it to be disrespectful.
Oh, I didn't sense that at all.
No. But I thought about this because I literally just had this conversation yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, I figured out I need to put it out in the air. Because they're like, you really don't acknowledge the pronouns. I'm like, I don't. I'm too old to be trying to figure out different gender roles now.
To learn, but I remind myself that
young people can do that.
Yes, young people can. I remind myself that at one point I was like the idea of a woman being in finance, even have her own credit card. That was just in the 70s when we were allowed to start having credit cards.
I mean, listen, there was a time and women could not own property,
Yes, and
So
Black people, we were property.
yes,
So
yes,
this
absolutely,
is my way of being a champion for change. Again, shout out to
absolutely. We are
Scott
the
Nargo.
poorest for most killings.
But yeah, so this individual was wreaking havoc. And your original question to me was, what was I doing to prepare for when
Yes,
I saw the writing on the wall, when I saw the red flags? I started putting my health first and say, it's one thing to be in a situation where I know things are kind of falling apart. It's another thing to be where things are falling apart and I don't feel valued. And it's stressing me out this much and causing me to have to go to the doctor. I'm having these tests. So I made sure I had my savings built up. That's general just advice. Even if the world is good, it's the 90s and everybody has, buckets of gold and coins and jewels in their home. It's always good to have savings. They say generally 3 months. I push more for 6 months
I
with
push
the
for a
job.
year, but
Yeah, but
everybody
the
here
job
know I
market
push
we
for a year.
have,
Yes.
it took me 7, 8 months to find another job.
Well,
So
technically, even before the pandemic, right? On average, it takes a person 9 months to find a new job once they've lost their old job. And so I've been telling people for a while to have a year's worth of reserve. Everybody thinks I'm crazy, but that's
but
why I'm
no,
the
it's
finance rebel.
wise.
Right. Yeah.
It really is wise. It's prudent. It's necessary. Um, yeah. So I had my savings built up, and
Now, how did you go about savings? You don't have to give me the dollar amount, but did you have a
no, that's
philosophy?
fine.
Do you have a
So that
philosophy?
was my big goal for 2021 and 2022. So we didn't necessarily get to this part earlier, but I'll share it now. So prior to 2020, actually really in 2020, I had like this huge year of getting it done. And when I say getting it done, changing my financial position. So I paid off $50,000 in debt.
Well, wait a minute. I mean,
And then
wait.
2020.
We got to pause on that one. We got to pause on that one.
You
I got to give you the horns for
know,
that.
I love
Shout
air
out.
horns.
Yes, yes. Congratulations. That's
Um,
dope. That's dope.
Thank you. It
I'm sorry
was
to cut you off.
no. It's reaction. It's a conversation. Go for it. So I paid off 50,000 in debt. I doubled my annual salary. That's when I went to the other company, the company to not be named.
That's
And
right.
then I purchased my second investment property. And all of this was over the course of 8 months. And I
Mhm.
mean, I took some drastic changes. Like I had a friend move in so she could be my roommate. I cut out, fortunately, the pandemic helped because we were all stuck at home, but I was quite the social butterfly. So I cut out a lot of my social activities, like going out to see people. I mean, because I kind of had to, but it also just forced me to. And it allowed me to pay off a lot of debt. But I'd already started that journey. Like 2018, 2019, I said, I'm tired of this because it wasn't even student loan debt. I still have student loan debt that I'm working on. It was the fact that it was lifestyle creep mixed with being severely underpaid. I was part of a class action lawsuit against one of my employers for unfair paid women. Y'all are going to think I don't like my employers. Believe it or not, I do.
Well, if y'all paying attention, that must have been one of the big four, but I ain't starting no mess.
No. No, not that. Not.
But wait a minute. Let me ask somebody, and I'll get back to everybody's questions in a minute until we get to the end. But
Okay.
you said $50,000.
Yes, I see. Ann said 15K.
Right.
No,
It was 50.
50.
Right. I just wanted to, right.
50.
50,000, 5000. Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to be sure. Okay. All right. So you got your money together. You brought an investment property, another one. You doubled your salary. You paid off 50K. And that, since Aunt asked, was it credit card debt mainly?
Yes,
Okay.
it was consumer debt, credit card debt.
High interest rate credit card debt, I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I ain't want to hurt your feelings.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
You didn't hurt my feelings. I never wanted to be in that situation. And I was getting paid so little at one point that I would wake up and ask myself, do I want to put gas in my car to get to work today? Or do I want to eat when I get to work? Like like get groceries and then be able to eat later. And I had a full-time job, but I was still on, what do you call it? SNAP. supplementary
Food stamps.
nutritional assistance plan, like food stamps. Yeah,
Food stamps.
you know,
Yep.
government cheese.
Yep. Know it
Even though I
well.
don't
I know
really
it
need
well.
it. Huh?
I know it well.
Look, and there's no shame in that because I would
No.
bop the first month when that card reloaded, name brand snacks. I thought I was doing something. But the fact that I had a job with benefits and still was just having to, I had to figure things
But
out.
sadly, you are not alone in that. A lot of us are not alone. It's funny. One of our friends, right? The money plug, Marquia Brown,
Yeah.
put a post up the other day and said that and I'm doing her disjustice, but she was saying that are you factoring in for medical expenses, or are you making medical expenses a priority? And I was like, damn, I just got a $500 bill from going to the doctor like a week ago, and that sucker hurt, and my
Yeah.
insurance company wasn't going to pay for it. That's what is it, the copay or whatever I got to pay. So medical can be a thing. So even if you have medical, it still can be burdensome.
That was part of my debt. I did have medical bills, and because I took I selected the insurance plan that would take the least amount out of my paycheck, which typically is a high deductible health plan. And so you can get a health savings account with that. I know we're kind of getting into technical terms now, but pretty much a high deductible health plan, HDHP. It means that less is taken out of your paycheck each month or each week, however often you're paid bi-weekly. But when you have a medical bill, you have a high deductible you have to pay. So you might have to pay like $500, $1,000, $2,000 before your insurance benefits kick in to cover the rest. Whereas if you have kind of more of a standard insurance plan, you'll pay like 20% of a bill bit by bit throughout the year, and more is taken out of your paycheck. But you only have to pay like maybe $250 or something, or like $500 for the entire year out of pocket cost, and then your insurance will cover everything.
Right.
And I happened to there was a hit and run, and so car insurance covered a lot, but then like health insurance had to, like when a person hit me, that factored into it, and then just having to, regular doctor stuff come up. So all of that, I had a lot of debt to pay off, and I paid it off. And then we get to 2021, and I say, okay, I got this good job now, and I'm debt free. And so then I focused on saving, and I racked up savings. Like I also was traveling a lot because my job had relocated me to Austin, Texas, and that is a nice city for what it is, but it is not the city for me. It was
very expensive.
So to be in DC, the original chocolate city, and then to go to Austin, which is like
you're trying to hurt people's feelings.
No chocolate. I'm trying to say it with grace. Work with me, Kamari. I'm trying to say it nicely. I remember I could go an entire week and I wouldn't see a black person unless I looked in the mirror. I was like, what is this? This is so different. It doesn't have to be this way. It's okay, but it's not. I'm a little on edge now, because then like they were making all these laws about how you can just pack pistols and carry them everywhere. And I said, oh my gosh, like this is shortly after, and there's people, I learned that like the Blue Lives Matter people were all, around, even though Austin is a really fun, hipster, safe city. But I said, it doesn't.
Austin is still Texas. Let's not be confused.
Safe. And they still got these guns everywhere. And it's not like the guns are the problem. It's the people who feel like they are the vigilantes with the guns, and they see me, and just my melanin alone is a threat. I want to be here. I like it. I did like brisket though, and I liked everything is bigger, so that was cool. You can always find a store that had something. And tacos. Anything can be made into a taco. I like Asian food a lot, so they had sushi tacos. Wasn't like what I had in mind, but I became a bit of a brisket and taco snob. Those were the highlights. Oh, and HEB. They have a grocery store called HEB. That is a really great grocery store.
Is that like an Asian market or?
No, oh, but it does sound like it. What is the Asian market? It sounds like no. It stands for It actually I don't know what it stands for, but they say it stands for here everything's better. But it's just this amazing grocery store. It's like very affordable. They have everything, and
Okay.
yeah, it's like I think they're like one of the top 10 grocery stores in the country, but they're only in Texas. You know how strong your sales game has to be that you in one state and you still whooping
But
that
to
like
be
the whole
fair,
country.
Texas is one or two, right? Most populated state in the country. So
They pulling their weight.
yeah, yeah. So all right. So you were saving heavy once you got
Yeah,
to the
the
company
other
that
state.
will
Yes.
remain nameless. I'm tracking. I'm tracking.
All right,
All right. So what made you prioritize savings at that point once you paid off your debt?
oh, I didn't have it. that was it. The
But
priority
listen,
was
there's a lot of people who don't have it and still don't prioritize it,
yeah.
even
So
when
I
you get
was
into the position too.
I was working with a financial planner at the time. She's a
Okay.
wonderful woman. And she we looked at my kind of like my balance sheet, my
Your personal
assets
balance sheet.
versus liabilities, like who
Mhm.
am I, what am I holding as my financial position. And we realized that I have a lot of things going for me, but it would be better to have savings. And honestly, up until that point, even though I preached and taught financial advice, I did a lot more corporate finance. So I just wasn't pushing as much for like, oh, you should have your savings. I still was kind of like, well, if you got a credit card, that's something. And I'm not saying excuse me, hold on. It's hot in here because I think my heat went up when the snow came down. Now it's like all dry and hot in my house.
Oh boy.
Anyway, this is why I keep water next to me or tea. So we looked at my financial position, and I was of the mindset that like, oh, I've got some savings. I had some, but I mean, it was negligible. Like it would have
Mhm.
been enough to maybe get me through one pay period, which is like
Okay.
2 weeks. Um, so we said, really just start automating savings. So I pulled out I just kind of did automatic pay set to a separate bank account because that was also part of the problem. I originally had my savings account in the same bank with my checking account. So it really just meant it was like a checking account that I didn't see right away. It was there. It was just a checking account that honestly would charge me a fee if I took money out of it. So when I automated it to go to a separate bank, and I went to a bank that didn't have a branch anywhere near me. So I went to a credit union because credit unions usually have higher interest rates. And since the bank wouldn't be near me, it would be harder for me to access those funds. Like I really would have to transfer funds online from that credit union to my primary checking. And that could take 2 to 3 days. And if you throw in the weekend, it could be like a whole, 6 days later.
Right.
So it would force me to not, it kind of prevent me. It was the control that was put in place to prevent me from spending. Plus, my employer, they gave a lot in employee benefits. So I didn't have to cook as much, even though I was going to HEB and buying all those groceries, but I didn't have to. And I didn't have to, like, you could get reimbursed for all kinds of stuff, like your internet, if you're working from home, and there's commuter benefits. And so all of those things helped me to not have to be as reliant on my income to make things work. And then by that time, I had a tenant in my first property. So, I mean, I wasn't making money. Technically, I think I was losing like $10 a month after I paid like landlord insurance, and I had a property management company. So it wasn't like, some cash grab, but it kept my DC property in my name and then gave me the flexibility to be able to get a second home that
Nice.
I lived in at the time.
Nice. Okay. So you started building savings at the
Yeah,
new company, and
yeah,
then they said, "Oh, we're cutting back."
yeah.
So was the first thing to go your savings, or were you able to
Ooh.
quickly transition to
Mm.
other ways of making money?
I went through about 3 phases. Um, the first thing to go was not my things. I
Wait a minute, say that again. The first thing to go was what?
was not my things. It was not like, oh, I'm immediately just cutting things. So the 3 phases were complete shock/denial. I'm telling you, it was a good week where I had turned in my laptop because we had to return our company issue property, but I just was in this denial haze where I would get up every morning and like get on my personal laptop and do stuff and work out like I normally would in the morning and cook breakfast and like close my laptop. And it just like had not fully, like it did not sink in. And it was hard for me to get out of that. I don't know why. Like it wasn't like I had some fantasy world to live in. I just the reality had not fully set in. I think because I never experienced it before. So I talked to my friends in HR. They were able to, kind of help me think things through. And then I went into I need to be lean and scale back on spending. So that's when things started to get cut. So I was laid off November 9th. November 9th, 2022. And then somewhere like November 15th, I guess, or somewhere in the teens, I started to scale back on a lot of stuff. And I mentioned before, I like to travel abroad. Like there's no more traveling abroad. I need to cook all my meals myself. And I'm going to generic products for soap, which is not for me. like
That's dangerous.
There's certain things when I can get generic, there are certain things I can't. Like my detergent needs to be a certain kind, and I have certain makeup that I like to do, and like so there was some cutting, but it's like, can I just get a coupon instead of cut? So there was scaling back, and then somewhere around December, I went home for Christmas. I didn't go home for Thanksgiving because it was going to be too much to do 2 trips.
Now, where do you call home?
Good point. I was a military brat, so I was raised overseas. So
I'm tracking. I'm paying attention.
You a good listener. I appreciate it. Home was the DC area. So by then, a lot of my family is in either Florida, South Carolina, or DC.
Okay.
So I came home to the DC area, and I finally laid out, which I do every year in December. And if I was thinking, I probably should have just done it in November. I wouldn't have been in that haze period. But every year in December, I lay out my budget for the next year. And I mean, I sign every paycheck to a bill or to savings or to a trip or to whatever else I have to do for the year. And it is lined up to say, this is the paycheck I get this week. These are the bills or expenses that'll be tied to it. This is the over under, whatever else I need to adjust.
Oh, so you won't do a percentage of each one of your checks to say bills, car, food, savings. No, you are mapping directly towards, I'm going on a trip. Is that a fair one?
Yes.
So these first 2 checks in January are going to that.
Yes.
I'm going to buy a car. These next 2 checks in February and January are going to that. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like income, and it has my bills, and it has income from my rental properties. Then it's expenses, and it has recurring expenses. I really have this mapped out as recurring expenses and all of them, because I'm used to finance background. Like this is how you lay out an income statement.
Well, it was funny. I was like, oh, she's doing a whole income, a profit and loss statement.
Yes, I do a P&L on myself, and then non-recurring expenses. And that's where it's like, so this year I'm a bridesmaid at my best friend's wedding.
Congratulations.
And I'm so happy for them.
Give them
And then I'm also helping plan another friend's baby shower. And so all of these little things, which I'm like, I need to check into that.
I was going to ask you, are you going to become an executive wedding planner?
No.
No bridezillas for you.
No. So the bride of my best friend, she's great. She is not a bridezilla. And I know this interview isn't about her, so it doesn't matter. But no, that is not me. I like finance portfolio. People portfolio is different. It's different. So give me the number. Let me play in my spreadsheets. But I can lay out a bomb budget for you, and I can get it down to like, okay, and this is the different excursions we can do, and this is the best dresses, and this is where you get your catering, your florals. But like actually having to, that's just a lot. Having to get all those pieces together. And like, yeah, no. I'll do the budgeting. So, which is actually my role for the Bachelorette Week party. I'm the treasurer for Bachelorette Weekend. Or week. It's a whole week. It's like, oh man,
a lot of shenanigans on here.
There's a whole week.
A lot of tomfoolery.
It is a lot. It's. I was like, y'all know how old we are? We're okay.
I didn't ask. Remember, I'm
No,
not supposed to ask. I didn't
we're
ask.
all like, aren't we? I feel like we met when we were the age when we could party for a week straight. We have now advanced to the age where it's like, whoa, I went out Thursday and I slept through till Sunday. but okay, we're
Listen,
gonna make it.
I'm tired just by hearing you saying y'all gonna party for a week.
It's yeah,
Mm,
but
have
yeah,
at it.
right. Drink plenty of water and rest, I guess. Where was I?
Traveling back.
Oh, and then non-recurring expenses. So
Yes.
yeah, those things are in the non-recurring expenses. And then at the end of that is the over under the profit loss.
What's left over, what's not.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and then I can move things around. Like, okay, I know this bill is due on the 15th, but if I pay it 2 weeks early, then I can balance out the next week or something like that. So I did that in December because I'd always do it in December, and it also helps with like goal setting for the year, so you can.
But wait a
know
minute.
the big thing.
You did that in December of 2022, a month after you lost your job, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't have any new income coming in. So
I did not.
So how was the mathing?
You're so. I love it. The questions that need to be asked. You better be on your what is it, Gail? The good questions.
Listen, I know some folks don't like Gail and Oprah.
Yes,
They are phenomenal journalists.
like
I'll just say that. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Then let's leave it there. Side note, I got to meet Oprah over the holidays. Heart was full. I loved it. Okay. So because that was like one of my anyway, doesn't matter. So
come true. No. Listen.
It
we
was
can make room for that.
I'm like you said, not everyone is a fan. When I was in middle school, high school, I did a report and I did a monologue as Oprah Winfrey and one as Maya Angelou. And I wasn't expecting to meet her. My friend invited me. My friend does color. She does premieres and stuff. And she usually does with political things. And I'm like, all right. But she was helping with The Color Purple. And so they had an advanced screening and I went and I'm just thinking, oh, okay, fine, cool, whatever. And I sat in the chair, then the seat that was broken. And so like everyone else's seat reclined. I'm in the very front row of the movie theater with the seat that doesn't recline. So I'm like having to do this to see the movie all night. But it didn't matter. It was a really great movie. You should go see it. The remake is bomb. But right before the movie started, we noticed like a security detail walking around and we thought, that's interesting. And then Oprah came in and she stood right in front of my busted broken seat. Heart was full. Then we got to take pictures. And I thought, wow. I really wanted to tell her, I did you. Like I was you, no big deal. In middle school, but it's cool to see you now. Anyway.
Hold that thought.
Yeah.
For anybody who's been watching me for a while, y'all know that I interviewed a person that was on Oprah's security detail on this show at least 2 times. He comes here often. It's
cool.
Kevin Gee's on here pretty often. So you should go back and check out some of those interviews.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'll be on my computer tonight. So this gives me.
All right, I'll send you the links. I'll make it easy for you.
Well, thank you. That's excellent service, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
We are so off topic. So
we were talking about paychecks and budgeting out.
But we were budgeting. So the different and how you had a great question when you asked
the math is math.
How was it? Yeah. When I'm not getting a paycheck every week, month, whatever. How did that work? So there were a few things. Our unemployment severance package. That's
good old severance.
It was nice. It was a nice severance package. It was 6 months pay. It was a hefty severance package. And we got our stock.
Now, did you keep the stock or did you sell the stock?
No, I'd already developed a model that kind of showed I needed to be selling that stock. I think if I maybe been in a different financial position to hold it, I could have, but even before the layoffs, we were already selling the stock because that's what I was using to pad my savings. So I felt no pain in like forcing sell. Like get rid of this. Knowing that I have to pay the gains on the sale.
You created a tax bill though.
I did. And I was also okay with that because there are other things I do throughout the year to offset my tax liability. Okay. So I was like, all right, this is not the deal breaker to sell it. But I strongly recommend working with a financial planner or a financial coach. if you're going to make those kind of decisions. That is not something you just impulsively do. The same way some people are like, oh, I just tap into my retirement whenever I need money. Well, yeah. You need to have a good reason for doing that, because that is not the most responsible way.
Sadly, a lot of people use their 401ks as ATM machines, and it's
Yeah,
really bad.
that
And I
is
see
stressful.
people
It's
get into
uncomfortable.
terrible tax situations.
Because the double taxation on that is real.
Yeah.
I had to do it once before. I don't regret it, but
If you can avoid it, you should avoid it.
yeah, but I was
Right?
saying it was not like it should not be your first play. It should
No.
be, there is something serious going on and I need this liquidity right now. And you have a plan for how you are going to, if possible, stay with your employer and build up that because you can take a loan, so you don't actually have to withdraw. You can take a loan from your 401k and then you kind of pay yourself back. You are paying interest on it, but you can pay yourself back. So then you're not paying the double taxation. But you just have to stay with your employer and be disciplined in having them like auto withdraw the payments, because that taxation is real.
Well, let me share this real quick before I forget. Here's something I suggest. This is not advice. Please talk to your investment and or tax advisor before you do this. But a lot of you all who lose your job, you left your 401k behind, and you're thinking about rolling it over to a 401k. I mean, an IRA. Excuse me. One thing you can do, especially if you are a consultant, wink, wink, right? You can create a solo 401k. And if you have to take out money to pay off bills or whatever you might need to do, you can take a loan from your solo 401k, and it gives you a lot more flexibility than an IRA. Now, that's something I work with some of my clients. They've had money left over. I have them roll it over from their 401k to a solo 401k, then take a loan from the solo 401k to pay off the debt they might have, and then pay themselves back. Instead of taking the money, getting in tax trouble, having to pay that 10% penalty, that sucker hurts, and then moving about your business like that. I just had to put that, it was on top of my head.
No, I like it. I appreciate the tax.
Yes.
Thank you. That's why you're here. I mean, one is your show, so obviously some people.
Oh, it's our show. You're my guest.
I like it. That's good advice.
So you took money out. Not took money out. You sold off the stock. You were investing in savings and doing all that, and then boom, they pulled the rug out. You did some travel.
And so then I looked to see between my severance pay. So I got laid off on Wednesday. On Monday, I went on disability. Not because of the layoffs, because I didn't know the layoffs were coming. I mean, I knew they were coming, but I didn't know they were like happening that week.
Wait a minute. So you went on disability before you got laid off?
Yeah, I was laid off while I was on disability. That should be the headline.
Like Jesus, take the wheel.
Yeah, so I went on disability on Monday because I told you I had this supervisor who caused so much stress that at one point HR even said, we don't know why you keep trying to make this a better situation. Like, clearly this is.
So you went out on disability because of your asshole boss. It was that much stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now I gotta ask this question because it's there. Did you seek any therapy or counseling because of this?
Oh yeah, that was part of the disability. Like, you can't just say I'm going on disability. We're gonna see what happens. Like, when I was going to the doctor and having these tests done, and like they were trying to figure out what was going on with the chest pain and the anxiety and like the inability to just breathe around this person, that validated that I needed some help. So I went to, I had a stress therapist who would help me. Like, I don't think stress therapy is a thing, but maybe it was just a regular therapist, and she was helping me know how to like set up boundaries and say no and speak up for myself. I got an inhaler. I was like, okay, some Promethean mist.
You had asthma as well? Or?
I don't, but like that's how bad it was. It was just, I would have to talk like this, because I could not take a full breath. It was just like the sheer feeling of being around this person made it so hard for me to
Wow.
exist. And so I would have these intense chest pains. I would be dizzy. I couldn't breathe well. And it was just the fear of knowing this person was doing so many just messy, maniacal things. And it's crazy because I shouldn't say it's crazy, I know that's a cancel term. It's wild because I've had intense work environments before, but I've never had one that got to that level. I've
Yeah.
had ones where I've cried. I've had ones where I said, I don't need this. But I've never had one where I just could not breathe. And so when I
Do you
left,
think? Do you think it was just the work environment that boss created, or was it part of the time? Because we're talking about COVID, we're talking about George Floyd, we're talking about BLM. Like,
that is a
was it?
good point. So all of that happened in like 2020, 2021. This
But it
was
was still
2022.
lingering. Like it
So I say
was.
so it was still there. I think that could definitely factor into it.
I mean, I know the
Um,
pandemic technically is over
and
now,
I
but
was
I
away from
still
my
say we're
family.
right. I think we're still in the pandemic now, though. But
Yeah, because people will just cough on you.
yeah, just
Um, I I think there's validity to your point that it was a number of factors, but as soon as I stopped working around this person, I was going to my therapy. I was walking and like breathing. Um,
any
it
yoga,
all went away.
any meditation.
Yeah, but I was already doing that. Not a lot of yoga. And yoga is not really my thing. I'd rather just take a nap. Not like I'm gonna do some intense cardio or I'm gonna do nothing. It's not like
Yeah,
that's. But I mean, yoga is great. It just isn't. If I do yoga, it's like I'm on vacation. I think I want to say like maybe when I went to Bali last year. I feel like maybe I tried
there's that
yoga.
travel.
Oh yeah, Bali was fun. I also went to Ghana for the first time in December, Dead Sea December. That's why in our little group chat, I was rather silent because I was in Ghana having the time of my life.
Well,
Anyway,
that's on my list. Hold on, we can't
you gotta
jump
do
over
it.
Ghana. Sorry, that's a place where I
You
want to
gotta
go
do it.
personally. So you loved it? Where'd you go? Did you go to Accra? Did you go?
Yes, I went to Accra and I did Dead Sea December with a few. It's a travel company called Tribal Travel Club. I have to plug them for that because they really did a great job. So we
Great.
went to a few stops on the transatlantic slave trade. So we went to the point of no return and we went to the last bath. We went to some of the slave quarters, like they're holding houses because slave quarters are more so when you get to wherever the destination was where the slaves are dropped off, or sold, not dropped off. And
I know
then,
what you
but so like that was the historical, like your learning context. Then there we went to Afro Future, which is a rebranded Afrochella. That was dope. Saw all these great artists, including Davido. No, Burner Boy. Burner Boy was this year.
mean. Well, they both do.
Um, and then I say which is both dope. And then we hang out at the pool. We went to the beach. They had a naming ceremony because that's part of the Ghanaian tradition and culture. And then
So,
they
what is
party
your name?
different.
What is
Hmm?
your name? What is your name?
Chai. Okay, where is it? Hold on.
You ain't
No, because
internalizing
you
it.
know what's okay. Look, judge me if you must. I paid attention to everyone's name but mine. Fortunately, they wrote it on a form. Because so my friend who I was traveling with, she went before me, and she had a very touching story. And so I'm super caught up in like recording her and hugging her, and I'm like, it's okay, girl. And when they said my name, I'm mindful of not even been in the space. What's in the room, but it was on a beach. So I'm really always have to go back. You know what's funny though? I remember the name of a few other people because they're names that are more commonly used in the States. So it's based on your gender and the day of the week you're born.
Yep.
So Kwame is Saturday, I believe, and Kofi is Sunday or Friday for males, I think, Thursday or Friday. Either way, I know Kofi's and Kwame's. So I can remember that. Me, I just keep saying, "Oh, what was my name?" And then I have to go back to my little certificate they gave me.
That's fine. That's fine.
That's why I looked around. I was like, wait, where did I put the certificate over there? Anyway, they party different in Ghana. They wake up and they like, oh man, okay. So we get up at like 1 o'clock. You hang out at the pool or the beach, whatever, and then somewhere around like, and I mean legitimately, I'm not a person who sleeps in. I tend to get up at 6 or 6:30 a.m. But you get up at 1 o'clock. You go hang out at the beach. You enjoy good food and drinks. It's a very relaxed, chill atmosphere. And then somewhere around like 6 or 7, you might have dinner, take like a little nap. I don't know. You don't leave to go out for the night until 11 o'clock. Now, at my big age, I mean, like, why did you ask me to leave the house? Once the street lights come on, or once it's like double-digit hours into the night, like after 9 o'clock, I want to be home. So anyway, you go out and you really party until the sun comes up. And I mean, you're outside just dancing, and everyone's so nice, and everyone is beautiful. I mean, just beautiful and stylish because everybody just knows dress. You better come correct. No sloppy, no half stepping. And I just the queen princess treatment, whatever they like to, the term the kids like to use nowadays. You're pampered. Like, I mean, I could just do this. And a guy would come running like, oh, would you like some bottled water? Do you want me to? One night I did this the whole night. I just put my hand out like this. Just because every time a guy would just come out, like I would get to some stairs and it would just do this. And he was like, please let me help you. I said, this is wild.
Now, was that the tourist treatment or
no? Because I
everybody?
was quiet half the time. I mean, I guess maybe the way I'm dancing, they can see I was American. I don't know, but like it wasn't. And this is from all around the world, so it's not just like Ghanaians. It's Nigerians. It's people from the EU because like they might have been raised there. So you got some proper blokes there, and then you got Americans, and of course people don't always love Americans, but. It was just dope. And so you party, and then the sun comes up somewhere between the 5 or 6 o'clock hour, and you're just piano for my piano music, just having a good time. And then you go back to the hotel, and of course, again, queen princess treatment, whatever you want to call it. Like the guys are like, please stand here with my security team or stand here with my cousin. I'm going to get you a car. I'll call you an Uber. And it's not on some creeper. I'm trying to figure out where you're staying. It's just like, I want to make sure you have a good time and get home safely. And then you get home and you go straight to breakfast, which normally I'd be like, I want to wash because I've been outside. But no, it's this amazing buffet. So you're just going to enjoy this good food. And then you go upstairs and take a shower and go to sleep. And it's at this point like 8 a.m. and you sleep until like noon, and then you just get up at 1 or whatever and go right back to the pool beach and do it again.
Okay. Well, that's dope. All right. I'm sorry I asked that question. I'm sorry I asked that question, but
you got to try it. The medicine
it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen sooner than later.
Yeah.
But right. So we talked about the math not mathing, right? You got disability, you got the severance. You got unemployment all at the same time.
Unemployment took a while to kick in because since the severance pay, which was for 6 months, I couldn't get unemployment past until the time period of my severance pay.
Right.
Yeah. So that was part of it.
Okay. Right.
And then I was, making rich like my melanin financial solutions.
So let's talk about that, right? So we talked about it. School, we talked about work, we talked about the new big company that shall not be named getting laid off, and now we created Rich Like My Melanin, RLMM. What made you create that?
Yeah, so I created Rich Like My Melanin back in 2021. So I mentioned when I was in college, I took my first finance class. I loved it. It was dope. And it was my junior year of college. So I said, I'm not going back to school for another year. I'm finishing my general management, business management concentration. But I always liked finance. So my friends who knew me knew I was a person who can handle financial questions for them. So for example, one of my friends got a letter from the IRS and I was so giddy. I looked up tax codification for him and wrote a letter like, this is what you need to send back to them. And
wait a minute, you were giddy?
Yeah, it's like when I tell you tax code, low key, it's like, this is fun.
So come on over. We need you.
No, dead ass. Don't play.
I'm serious. I'm serious. We need you.
I was looking to pick up a big role. Hmm?
Let's talk. But in our industry, it's still heavily white male dominated.
It
So
is.
we need good, smart, integral people in this space.
Can I tell a story about that real quick? I
Go right
think I
ahead.
shared this with you, but I'll share with the finance rebels in the audience. So you talked about the importance of having diversity in different industries, and one of our friends, Nasima, she talks about how important it is in nursing,
Hold
and
on,
how
hold on. Gotta give Nashima the
yes,
shout out to
she's
Nashima.
dope. She
Nashima's super dope.
I mean, just dope. Like, give her all the flowers, all the credit. She's an amazing person, woman, mom, nurse.
Yes, she
Like,
is.
just love it for her. I want her to get all the success, all the wins. The way it showed up, DE&I, and the importance of it in taxes. So I'm used to being it's not as bad nowadays, but it's still there. Being the only person of color, being the only Black person, being the only woman, sometimes being the only person under 50 in a room. I'm used to all of those things. I don't want to be used to it. I've just developed, a way to speak, a way to carry myself that creates the environment where I can let my work speak for itself as best it can. And where it's clear, I can start to pick up who I need to be around. In the tax space, I agree, there's not a lot of diversity there. And one of the ways that it shows up is for Black people in America, I should say, like we're talking about US tax, we tend to donate a lot to churches. We tend to be heavily like into tithing because it's just part of what our foundational beliefs are. Like a lot of us tend to be Christian and Baptist, Methodist. Wherever you are, you still believe in tithing and like 10% off the top. And so for us, we contribute a lot to charity. And I've had tax preparers come back and ask, why are you doing that? Or why are these clients doing that? Because that's just not how they work. And it's not to say people of a different faith or a different race don't have some form of tithing or charitable giving. But the fact that a Black person will legitimately be like, I don't know how I'm gonna pay my bills, but I know I'm gonna get my tithe, because that's how our faith operates. And that's what we see as like just it's table stakes. We're not discussing it, we're doing it. The number of times that someone who is not Black, especially maybe not in any way kind of involved in like the Baptist, Methodist, Christian kind of background, they don't see it. And they start to think maybe this Black person does not make sound financial decisions, or does not understand how to properly donate, and or I need to teach them how to stop giving. And it's like, it's none of that. You just don't understand the context of the situation, like how this person functions. So yeah, diversity is needed in this area.
That's a
Because
fact, though. The church the role in church and finance in the Black
yeah,
community is paramount. It's
yeah,
funny. I
even
did it. I started a podcast with a friend of mine who's also an ordained pastor called God and Money, but I never really published it rather. I might go back and put those out because
yeah,
there are a lot of things that we do in and around church that are peculiar to us and only us.
yes, yes.
Mm.
And I would say it's not just church. It's the reason why social media is so fun. Because like Black Twitter or Black X, I don't know if you renamed it Black X.
Of
The
course.
commentary and the way like we see the world
And for
and
the
the
record, I'm
way
not calling it X. I'm calling it Twitter.
Black Twitter, okay.
His daddy
So
named it
you
Twitter.
won't
I'm
call it
calling it
Meta,
Twitter.
you'll call it Facebook. Yeah, the way we process and see like the process information, it's just we just have it. It's, I mean, some people call it a Jews, some people call it whatever they want to call it, but
No, we are the cool. We
yeah,
define the culture.
vibe,
Yeah.
the fits, boom, and raw. So yeah, it's everything from like knowing just Black mama isms to like how you, before you get a job, you calculate your first paycheck and say, now what am I going to get with these first few? So yeah.
And how many people actually spend their tax refund before they get it?
Spent it last year, spent it in November and December getting Christmas gifts and Thanksgiving dinners.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Oh,
And it's amazing. I know we're joking, but it's amazing how everything goes up around tax season. All the shenanigans go up. All the furniture stores prices go up. Our used car sales go up. It's like everybody's kind of programmed to benefit off
Yeah,
tax
the way I
season.
understand it. It's the same with laptops and cars sometimes around back to school season. Because those
Mhm.
are big purchases that people, if they
Right.
haven't made them in spring for graduation gifts, they'll make them in college time. It's the same way. I saw more studies on it this year, like Amazon. And I want to say Target did it too. Just oh, Target's my store. How dare they? But they will have an item, and let's say you look at the price in August, September, and it's $60. And either Amazon, they were incrementally raising the price each week a little bit. So it went up to like 62 and then it went to 65. And Target, they may have just kept it at 60. But then when Black Friday hits, by then on Amazon, it's like $95 and they'll say, oh, it's 30% off or 33% off because now we have it at 60. So they they inflate the price so much
They're gonna
that
hit a
they
sale.
actually are still getting the price they want. And then
Yes.
Target, there were pictures where they really just took the exact same $60 and they said Black Friday sale, $59.99 or $60. It's like, wait, that the price didn't change. You just put Black Friday sale on the sign, and I was supposed to believe it was a sale. So yeah,
Sales engineering at its finest. I mean,
yeah,
it's always happened. They just have a better way of doing it now. Yeah.
yes. Okay,
That's,
wait. So we were talking about
we're talking
how
about rich like my melanin.
yes, so I started Rich Like My Melanin. Started that
Why?
in 2021. I started it because I was all over the place in my story. I loved finance in undergrad. When I was working and enjoying what I was doing with working, I was able to help my friends on the side, but that's all I could do. I didn't have the time, the capacity to actually do anything more full time. And then in 2021, I started working for the other company, and work life balance was a lot better there than it was in consulting. So I was able to finally launch my business as Rich Like My Melanin. And I initially launched it as My Wealth Journey because I was waiting for my trademark to come in, but I know I wanted to start getting my name out there. So then in 2023, I applied for my trademark back in like September 21. Took forever. It took like a year and a half to finally get my trademark. So then in 2023, I officially received my trademark and rebranded myself as Rich Like My Melanin. And I tend to go about my website and everything is RLMM Financial because I know Rich Like My Melanin. As soon as people see melanin, some people love it, some people are triggered, and I don't need it to be a distraction. But I stand on business, again, as the kids say,
I
about
would
what
push
the
back on
purpose
that.
is. And see, but that's the thing, because I told you how like I'm used to being in these rooms where I'm
I know.
younger,
I
where I'm
know.
black. I'm just used, like I know what battles I want to pick,
Well,
and
it's not even a battle, right? And I'm not pushing back like that. What I will say is that because a lot of times we are afraid to put ourselves out there because discrimination is real, right? I'm
yeah,
not going to act like it's not real. But the reason why I am intentional about putting my face on things is because if you do not want to work with someone who looks like me, I am giving you full license to do it now. I'd rather not be bothered. And I
okay,
wish
so maybe
more of us, and I'm not trying to get you to change your mind. However, you will also be surprised how many non-black people are looking for black people to work with.
yeah,
And I know that's
yeah.
not popular, but
No, it's not the. It's I find that the people who, and this is I pray for and look for discernment in moments. The people who I can be honest and be and not have to say RLM financial, I look for the opportunity to do that. But I
just
just
be
know
unapologetic. Just be unapologetic. That's the way
I think
God made you.
that's
Walk in
a
your divinity.
that's not a favor I have right now. I want to believe
I
I can
got
have
you.
it, but when my book comes out someday, I was like, when I have my small book right now, which we got to get back to that. But when I have my book, my personal finance book. So wait, I'm going to wrap this up with not wrap up the call. I'm not trying to say wrap up the call, but wrap up all the little stories I halfway started. I kept doing Rich Like My Melanin. It's grown. So I won a few awards. I won the Community Change Maker Award from Chime Bank. I won the Community Service Award from the National Association of Black Accountants. And I recently won a grant from the National Coalition of Black Women. Um, DC chapter. And so to that point, like two of those three are Black-led organizations, or they have Black right out there in the title, and they gravitate towards it. In the meantime, happy to show up on other people's shows. Like the last podcast I did had nothing to do with race. We talked a lot more just about finance. So it's just knowing how to like move and adjust in the room.
Well, maybe you
and
could
then
teach me
be
more
able
about
to ultimately get to my goal of that I can do financial planning. So I shared in our for those who don't know, Kamari and I are in this really cool group chat that we all just support each other.
Well, we know each other in
and
real life.
Yes, it's not just a group.
Yes.
The group chat meets in real life. We like in the real life, we're friends and we recognize each other's faces in public. And I do accountability posts in there of my progress towards becoming a CFP. So with all my degrees and certifications, and we didn't even go through all of those, but we went through 2 of them, which is good, and we can stop there.
All right, well, stop. How many you got? Let's not.
So I have 2 degrees and I have 2 certifications: project management professional (PMP), and then certificate of advanced accounting studies. Which because why not? If you want to be a nerd, just go all in and just get an advanced accounting studies degree. And now I'm working on my CFP, certified financial planner. So that is the ultimate goal, that I can be a financial planner and really build Rich Like My Melanin to be a brand that teaches finance, and highlights the importance of the disconnect in the gap in equity and equality. The fact that less than 4% of financial advisors are people of color. The fact that your home valuation, if the person walking through sees anything that indicates a culture that is not Anglo-Saxon, European, whatever else, that your valuation will be knocked down. And it's not like having a picture of yourself up. It could just be, let's see,
it could be well documented. Yep.
Yes. It could be a number of things that just say like, oh, I mentioned I'm AKA, like having that up. And they're like, well, most AKAs are Black. So it's the stuff like that those subtle little institutional things that impact the ability for there to be equality in equity building. And I really want my platform to be a place that changes that helps to move the needle. Then I can say I've had an impact in that what I do and the skills I've been given and blessed to have, I use to make a difference in the world.
Nice.
Oh, it seems so wholesome.
Now, have you thought about being a certified forensic examiner?
I've looked at that. I feel like that has taken me back to my accounting and audit days. And I had to work hard to get out of that. Because that audit busy season, you don't get to just walk away from it. They're like, no, come on back over here and sit down and keep doing calculations. So the same way I mentioned how I have the advanced accounting studies, I originally did that so that I could be a CPA, a certified public accountant. And I said, I don't want to do this. First off, that exam is wild. We're going to get to that another day. I don't even want to get into that right now. Trauma.
Well, you were already doing auditing.
Yeah.
Right? You already probably have the hours for it.
So absolutely.
You probably could sit for it anyway.
I know I could sit for it. I did. So that was the part that I said trauma. So at the time, I was an auditor, and I took the audit exam no less than 6 times, and you have to get 75 to pass. And I kept, so there's 4 parts at the time there's 4 parts. They've redesigned the exam now, but there's 4 parts of the exam. I kept taking the audit part and getting like a 73 or 74. And to be an auditor and to fail by like 2 points. And the thing is, they don't tell you what you fail. It's based on a curve. So it's like 25% of people did better than you or the same as you. That means you're in the 75th percentile. That means you pass. And they never tell you what questions you got wrong. But then when I'm taking the practice exams, I'm getting the right scores and I'm passing. So I just felt like it was something weird going on there. And I was like, y'all see, I have the credit hours. You see that I work for Big Four. You see that I'm taking the exam. And some reason I just keep failing this one. When I'm an auditor, like I write audit plans for life or for my like career. It when you said the mathing, it just something wasn't sitting right with me there. And I felt like I kept trying to prove myself to people who weren't going to accept my response no matter what. So I lost the desire to even try anymore. Word on the street is now there's not as many kids who want to be auditors because honestly, AI can do a lot of stuff for you and it can detect patterns and fraud in a different way and for a cheaper cost. So the AI CPA board supposedly is American Institute of CPAs. They are like changing how they proctor the CPA exam because they want more people to go back to it.
Well, I mean, there's an accounting shortage, and there's definitely a shortage
Yeah.
of CPA. So I can see that. I can definitely see that. But tell us about Rich Like My Melanin. Tell us what
What
services
I
and
do?
products is. Yeah, what you do.
Yeah. So
Besides show off your popping melanin.
yes, the cheeks are nice and like shiny right now, glistening. So what I do right now, I started out with doing one-on-one coaching, and I have scaled that back to none. Well, I shouldn't say none. I still coach a few people occasionally. But I am focused on right now. I do bookkeeping, so still back to accounting and audit. I do bookkeeping for smaller nonprofit organizations. So everything from their their monthly reporting to right now it's tax prep season. So we're getting their 1099s out to being able to do financial planning and applying to grants. So I have two main clients that I support in their bookkeeping. And then my goal, what I really want to be able to do within the next year or two, is to start to get back into one-on-one coaching, but do it not from do it more from the CFP point of view. So when I did personal financial coaching before, it was more of the let's like learn your like what kind of Rakim does, like let's understand your financial trauma and let's do budget building. But I found that I say the juice isn't worth the squeeze for me. And I really enjoy doing like the true quantitative analysis of debt planning, retirement planning, estate planning, all of that. So that is why I want to finish up my CFP.
Nice.
Which is what I'm working on. So then I can get back to doing that officially and like working with a registered investment agency, like working with investment companies to actually help people do that. So if you really have financial questions, goes down in the DM. You can DM me because that is part of what I'm building out a lot more as we look at the beginning of 2024. Is to be more consistent with answering people's questions, just putting it out there, like on the interwebs. But as far as taking on clients, unless you're a nonprofit organization,
Only nonprofit. You don't.
Yeah, I have a sweet little spot for nonprofits. I want them to succeed, and I particularly look at nonprofits that work with youth. It's my way of giving back. I believe the children are our future.
Okay, now. All right, Whitney.
So,
all right. Well,
yeah.
listen. Before we get out of here, I have questions for you.
Okay, let's go.
So you brought up a term earlier that I feel so many more people should know about, including small businesses, especially small businesses.
Yeah.
And that term is internal controls.
Oh, yeah.
So what internal controls should a small business owner, less $1 million or less, give me 5 internal controls they should have?
Okay, let's first start out by defining internal controls.
Did you just get excited when I brought up the term internal control?
I was like, oh yeah, let's do it.
And you don't want to be an accountant?
Oh man, oh my cheeks smiled so hard. So internal controls, it's a process, a system that's put in place to prevent or to detect things that should not happen. So it's a way of kind of keeping things in control. I will give an everyday example. If you have one of these fancy refrigerators nowadays, let's say you go and reach something to get out of the fridge and you think you closed the door, but it didn't actually like seal back. Some refrigerators will make a beeping noise, like beep, 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 beep. And so you know, I left the refrigerator open. I don't want everything to spoil. You'll go back and push the door a little close. It actually does that on car doors now too. It's pretty standard on car doors, so you don't drive off and like the door just slings open. So that's the control. It is something that's put in place to either prevent or detect. It can be preventative or detective. And it's trying to just keep things in check. So some of the controls I suggest putting in place, I feel like the day one, basic one, just don't even play yourself, just do it. Segregation of duties. So that implies that sometimes segregation is okay. In this case, with finances, the person who is in charge of spending the money is not the person in charge of approving the spending of money. So that way you can't have a person who's like writing checks to themselves. So like there has to be one person who has approving authority and then one person who actually has the signing authority. And they should be people who are, so that's one, internal control. The second, internal control, depending on how big your business is, and we said someone like less than $1 million, they should be insured. You should have some type of like guarantee over them. So even in the event that they have the best intentions, but they make mistakes, that you have those things in place. One of the controls that I've put in place just for myself, I look at transactions over a certain threshold, and we talked about Oprah before. Oprah does this too. Supposedly her threshold was $75. Now, as rich as she is, I really couldn't find that to be true, but maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe that's where she started. But and this is also something you can do if you don't have a business, just to control for yourself. So you look to say like any transaction that's over $200, it needs to get approved by 2 different people. So that way you can make sure you're not having someone like just auto draft a certain amount and like be right near the threshold or right over the threshold or something, and they keep taking money without you knowing it. So if it's a certain amount, you just know anytime it's over 200, it's going to show up. I say in addition to that, you have kind of attesting to you do a like cyclical planning. So you look to see in fluctuation. So earlier I said the second control should be like if you say $200 is your threshold, any transaction over $200 needs to be evaluated. The third part of that, the cyclical thing is if there's ever a transaction that consistently is like right under that threshold, look into that. So like if every month $199.97 is going missing, it might just happen to be that that's how much this particular bill is. Like that's how much your internet bill is in your office, and that's fine. But if it's always going out to like a person at that same amount, you might want to check that, because if you're paying them by hours and it just seems like they always put that exact same hours in, perhaps that could be the case. But again, that's a good way to detect fraud, to make sure that they are not just pulling out the certain amount every so often. Another control I have in place is to do just spot checks, random spot checks. So this is more manual. This is not as automated, but you can automate it by saying like, we look at all of our transactions and we pull a sample. Every month, we're just going to pull 5 transactions per month, and we're going to reconcile it back to the original form. So the original invoice, this is also, this is the internal control testing I used to do. You take it, you go from, it's called like, it's completeness and existence. So it's going from like the books to the inventory and the inventory back to the books. And you say, I have this document that says we bought 50,000 widgets for whatever. And I'm going to go walk it all the way back to the warehouse and count to see if we have 50,000 widgets. Because if we don't, somebody may take us some widgets. And then the same way, you look to see if there's 10 widgets on the floor, and you look back up to your books, you reconcile it back to your books to see if there's 10 widgets. And a last internal control, having a spending limit on your credit cards. And then that requires you to check your bank statement. So I worked with an organization before. They the officers would have to travel for conferences, but they always paid for the travel out of their pocket, and then they were reimbursed. So on the credit card statement, I saw a certain amount, and I said, that's odd. Like, we don't even really use this credit card, and it's only for emergencies. It's just, it's there for kind of a liquidity thing, but not really, because credit cards should be thought of as a liquidity tool. The point is, somebody had used the credit card to print documents at like a FedEx, Kinko, Staples, one of those like office stores. And whoever was working in that office store was not a person of integrity. They took the credit cards and they figured, oh, this is an organization. They probably travel. Because they saw like the flyers before an upcoming conference, I think. So they then booked a trip to Florida, had stayed in a nice 5-star hotel, lived the life and everything. I thought, none of these officers are doing this. So then I called the bank, and the bank was able to trace it back to this person, and then fraud. So let me try to recap those goals real quick. Segregation of duties. So the person who approves expenses is also not the person who signs expenses. Having some type of insurance policy on your officers. Now it took me on full screen. I'm like, wait, what were all of the things I did? Having a threshold amount to where you say anything above this threshold, it has to go through more scrutiny, whether it's more officers have to approve it or whether the team has to make a business case before they get that expense. Doing some type of like randomized check for or cyclical check to see anything below that threshold amount. Is it always the same amount? Because that is it a sign that like someone's just pulling this money every month? And then having a spending threshold on your credit cards. But I could go for days. Like I feel like if I really had the time, I could drop a hot 16. Wiki.
I think you just did.
I'm such a nerd. Like I hear even say, I'm like, you're such a nerd.
No, but that's a beautiful thing, right? And that's needed because I review a lot of cases where there was fraud or tax preparers did something janky. But in terms of fraud, especially for nonprofits or even cities, meaning townships or municipalities, it always comes to an internal control somehow. Somebody didn't check. Like in a lot of this stuff, and let me back up. Controls will fail, right? And so you have to go back and then make adjustments and say, hey, this is a control that isn't working. We have to make adjustments. However, most organizations don't have any controls whatsoever. I mean, I got stories.
Yeah. But you got to think the person who's creating whatever their service they're offering, whatever products, whatever municipal service fund, whatever, their background normally isn't in audit, finance. I agree. It might be in finance a little bit because typically CEOs tend to have been in some type of finance role beforehand out of the other C-suites. Like they'll either be in the tech role, they'll be in the finance role, but their mind just isn't programmed that way. And it doesn't have to be programmed that way because they can bring people on. So the same way earlier we were talking about my friend's wedding coming up, right, and how I'm the treasurer for the bachelorette party. That's because that's what I'm good at. But if they ask me to plan any of these activities, they know I'm just like, can I Google it? Like, is this Etsy? Can I just hire an event planner? Because my mind doesn't think in that creative way. I can try. Lord knows I try sometimes. But like the idea of being the person who says, this is some really cool product or service, my mind thinks very linearly in numbers. Whereas there's people who are really great at ideas and vision, and they need someone who can be the tactical execution. Let's follow the laws. Let's get things in order. So it's not a bad thing to be like the big dreamer and just know that you created some big organization, but you need to bring somebody like me, rich like my melanin, in to get those controls in place, to get the system in place. So that as you grow, you don't have to worry about fraud or concerns.
Well, you still always got to worry about it.
It's always there, but you can have less of a worry. You know that there's something in place, and you're doing what you can to mitigate that risk.
I mean, because there's one organization right now that there's been a lot of people stealing checks from the post office and from mailboxes, and that's happened to them. And I'm like, well, let's go electronic. They don't want to go electronic, but that's a whole other story for another day. And it's so easy now to do, but hey, but I don't want to keep people all day.
Like the financial trauma, because that is probably coming from something they've experienced in their life that taught them, I do not need to put.
Well, it's generational. A lot of it's generational. Yes.
So that's when you have to have that softer side of emotional behavior. And that's actually one of my favorite finance books, The Psychology of Investing, and being able to understand that emotional, mental factor. Because although we might like numbers, someone else might not see it that way.
Well, it's funny. I think I'm formulating a framework around this, but I'm actually really anti-financial literacy.
I think that's the first time I heard that. Okay, tell me your theory. What do you believe in
I
that?
feel corporations use the term financial literacy to pimp out the term, and it's just like drug dealers who give out turkeys on Thanksgiving. They just do that as a way to give back to their fiends.
To cleanse the soul a little bit and to
No,
have a tax
not to
write
cleanse
off.
the soul, to keep the profits coming. I mean, because think about it, when you get in a credit card debt, that sucker does not end. Like,
Yeah.
so it's like, all right, well, we're going to give you zero interest. And what do most financial literacy, right? And listen, I understand what the goal is or what people are working towards. We need more financial education and financial mastery. We don't want to just be literate, right? The goal, if we're talking about reading, you don't want your child just to be literate. You want them to be able to read masterfully, right? So,
Understand.
and I get what the goal is, but in my opinion, it's been over commercialized, and now they're just using it as a buzzword for PR and marketing to get people's money in the door, and that's probably my biggest problem with it. But
I do agree with how you explained that financial literacy has been monetized to the benefit of those who can figure out how to monetize it,
right,
and their intent may not be the best. And honestly, no matter what, the same way I was like, I can't be mad that my company laid me off. Like they're a for-profit organization, they had to make cuts. I was one of the cuts. They made a
right,
lot more cuts. It was 20,000 people, no, 15,000 people. 15,000 people laid off on the day that I was laid off. And in total across the big tech company it was 400,000 people. So it
right.
wasn't like a me thing, like this happened.
No, it wasn't
And as
personal
long
in
as
that way, right?
Mhm.
I said it wasn't personal for them.
Right,
It was
right.
personal for you, not for them.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you. Yeah, let's talk. I was like it too.
Right,
Oh,
right,
so it's the fact that it's a business and the businesses are going to do what they need to do
correct.
to continue to be a business. So you can't even be mad at them for that. But I do agree the commercialization of it. But no matter what, they're not going to sell a product or even essentially give away for free a product that cannibalizes what they already have existing.
Correct.
Um,
Because
it's a life
if
cycle.
they really wanted financial literacy to work, right? If you've been to any financial workshop, it's usually always aimed at some sort of consumerism goal. Buy a
Yeah, like
house, buy a car.
it has to
And
come from the
listen, we
product.
all need those things. Don't get me wrong, but do you really need a big mansion, or can you get a 2-bedroom row home for a starter house? For a starter house.
Mhm.
But it's always usually aimed towards somehow getting you into this cycle of debt
Yeah,
that
to
never
purchase a
ends.
new product.
Right.
In which case, I would slightly change how you define your response. I would say it's true financial literacy you're in support of, but the commercialization of financial
I'm in support of
literacy.
financial education.
Yes, yes.
And I know I'm splitting
And
hairs there, but I think it's important.
the independent, um, truly supportive, knowledge and fact based way of teaching people how to own their finances.
But I'll
Um,
say this though, right? If we really have to, like, if we're talking about dollars and cents and where we want to get our best bang for our buck, our highest ROI when it comes to financial literacy or better managing our money, I would say it's better to invest in therapy than it is to go into a financial literacy session.
ooh, and that's growth, people. That's growth. Not growth for you, but just like because I mean, you may have always been a proponent of therapy, but I do agree taking care of your health. Um, and
And shoot, it might be better to get a trainer.
look, listen, and listen
Listen,
and look. I am starting with a trainer tomorrow.
but people don't like that. It's too out of the box.
A trainer?
No, what I said, yes.
Oh,
Instead of a financial literacy course.
well, look, I
And
do
I get it.
agree.
I get it. I just
Yeah, but every idea that's commonplace now, for example, the cell phone, all its niftiness, my screen got all kind of smudges on it. It at one point was just completely out of the box
that's
idea.
true.
So
That's true.
let this be the moment that goes in perpetuity. and you can run it back a few years from now when it's like therapy is like, wouldn't it be
It's
great if
funny.
therapy was like required?
I've been doing that lately.
What?
Just running it back.
Yeah.
I mean,
All the reality shows, that's all they do. They run it back. I mean,
yeah,
I guess I don't watch enough reality shows to actually know, but I think that's what they do.
a lot of them do that.
Okay.
Well, Jay, I've had you here almost 2 hours. I appreciate all your time, and I gotta have you back. And I want to talk to you after this too.
Okay.
But please tell the people where they can find you at.
Oh yeah, how about that? Oh, we've been talking and we haven't said anything about that. Okay, y'all. First and foremost, hey, thanks for sitting and joining us all the time. So I mentioned the ebook I put out. It is The Good and Goodbye, and it is an ebook to teach people how to navigate the job loss process. So I put it out on the 1-year anniversary of my job loss, or when I was laid off. And it has everything from like how to negotiate severance packages, how to get your resume together, all of that. I would like to offer a discount code. So you can select the discount amount, Kamari, and we will have a code. So anyone who goes to the website, they can use, do you want to make it the Finance Rebel be the code?
Rebel. Make it Rebel.
Just Rebel?
Yep.
I'm rebellious. Yeah, and we'll it's like, feel like 15%, 20%. What are we feeling today?
Sounds good to me. How much is it? Where is it? Where can I find it?
I was about to say, so that's the part we were getting to. It is on my website, Rich. So my brand, Rich Like My Melanin, my website is RLMM for Rich Like My Melanin, RLMMfinancial.com. And that'll also link you to all the socials, the Instagrams, the YouTubes, the TikToks, all those things.
Alrighty. So I'm trying to pull it up now, but I'm having a problem. I promise.
No.
I think I typed it in wrong.
I was like, what? Because my bills stay paid. Like, what is Squarespace doing?
No, my fingers be Twitter fingering. So
RLMM Financial. Hold on. I'm going to put it in the private chat for you.
Yes, please do. And I will share right now, and I will include it in the show notes. So when the audio version of this comes out, you can all go check it out. Oh, look at you looking all presidential and whatnot.
Hey.
Hold on. All right. So we got to share the screen and listen.
The Good and Goodbye is $29.97, but I am creating the code Rebel now.
So what I want to do is I'm going to extend the invitation for you to come back, and we can just talk about the book.
Oh, okay. Or whatever else for them. I wanted to do more with tax hacks. I think it's pretty dope.
No, we can do that too, but I want to talk about the book.
Yeah. If you go to merchandise, you will see, and I'm entering the code right now.
Okay.
Go
back up.
So that as soon as this recording is over, there you go. It's the first one on the left. The Good and Goodbye.
Oh, wait a minute! I can buy the shirt.
You can buy the shirt. All the things.
Oh, you about to have my money?
I would appreciate it. I would accept it.
Oh, and we got ads. Oh, I need a Scully.
I move myself. Because I was looking for one myself. I legitimately said, why don't I have this? Okay, let's see.
Okay, so the book is $29.97. All right.
Yes, and we're doing 20% off with code Rebel.
All right,
I'm
perfect.
literally setting up right now.
So, and I will put a link towards this in the chat as well. So give me this one.
You know what? I'm going to up the ante. We're going to do 50% off.
Oh, quite generous of you. Thank you.
What'd you say?
Quite generous of you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I would love to have you back sooner than later, before tax season officially starts, if you have time.
Yes. I am learning and building out my schedule. I told you how to report my budget, but why is my camera making me all glossy? Okay, there we go.
Probably too much light on you.
Hmm?
It's probably too much light on you.
Yeah, the sun is setting or has set, so now it's changing. Plus, I feel like my good mattifying foundation is.
Your melanin is glowing.
She said I'm gonna do the best I can, and she is. Okay,
So, but
Rebel is
Jay,
now
I
free.
I appreciate you here. Definitely want to have you back. I know I'll have to wait till you get the schedule to get you back, but I appreciate you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
having
much.
me, Kamari. This was a
Absolutely.
nice 2 hours well spent. It didn't even feel like 2 hours. I like
No,
this
it
good
wasn't. It was a great
conversation.
conversation.
Thank you.
Alrighty.